I know we got so like not off track because it's definitely on track because every man needs to talk about grief and loss, but how traditional masculinity may not be helping with that. I definitely wanted to, kind of key you on that, John, and talk about that because, there's so many things, that especially Kirk and I talk about and have learned on our own the hard way,
Mhm.
usually by making mistakes, is that, yeah, if you don't deal with it, if you don't go through it, you don't heal and then you can't pass that healing along. And so, like with your app, with your journey, like how has kind of traditional masculinity failed, and is it good for us moving forward?
Well, you know, as men, we're taught we're supposed to be invulnerable. We're never supposed to show weakness. We're supposed to be this leader of
Superman.
the leader of the family, and we're supposed to be this picture of stability and the typical hero story, right? But I don't. I think what we've forgotten in in regards to the modern hero story, the ancients got it right, but that the lights go off. There is time when the lights aren't on, and there are things that come up that we have to deal with, and nobody is impervious to doubt. Nobody is impervious to adversity, and so these things come up that we have to. I would argue that you cannot be that picture of what we consider traditional masculinity without vulnerability. There's a reason, and I use this analogy a lot, but there's a reason that they tell you on an airplane that you got to put your mask on before helping somebody else. Because if you're falling apart inside, you can't be a leader. And everything I do now, I look at through a lens of how does this impact him, and how am I teaching him to do right, and how can I ever tell him that there's a right way to deal with difficult emotions if I'm bottling it up and drinking myself to sleep and dealing with my pain in such un unproductive ways. And so this notion that we can, we have to be infallible and invulnerable and never show weakness is just not true. It hurts us to approach things like that. Yet that is where I think a lot of us come from, right? Lie number one. And ironically, that sharing that we talked about is the unlock for healing for me and for others and everyone in between.